All right, let's dive right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we're making a massive descent into the super high stakes, honestly mind-bending world of subterranean mega engineering. You know, when we normally think about engineering marvels, we picture these gleaming skyscrapers stretching up into the clouds, right? Or massive bridges spanning huge divides. But today, we're flipping that entire concept completely upside down. We are going deep, deep underground to look at the jaw-dropping structures literally designed to keep human civilization alive.
Because we have to start with the ultimate existential threat. Seriously, where does humanity go when the surface burns? That's the dark, kind of terrifying catalyst for everything we're exploring today, a nuclear winter. It's a scenario that completely forces our hand, making us ask, how could any fragment of humanity actually survive if the environment above ground becomes totally uninhabitable? It's a grim thought, I know, but man, it is exactly this extreme parameter that drives the absolute most ambitious survival engineering on the planet.
And here is where it gets wild. When faced with a surface-level apocalypse, the solution isn't just, finding a good hiding spot or a temporary basement shelter. According to the source material, we have literally built fully autonomous underground towns. Let that sink in for a second. Autonomous towns. We're talking about vast, incredibly complex ecosystems buried deep inside solid rock mountains or even right beneath the bustling city streets we walk on every single day. And they are custom-built to outlast total devastation above.
So, level 1, citadels of the apocalypse. Let's look at where these megastructures are actually hiding in plain sight.
Now, looking at the globe, you start to see a real pattern of preparation, but with two drastically different vibes when it comes to secrecy. On one hand, you've got the highly documented, super famous American engineering of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. It's a known quantity, right? A literal fortress carved straight into the solid granite of Colorado. But then, contrast that with the ultra-secretive, shadow-shrouded tunnels of Russia's Metro 2. This is supposedly a subterranean system built way beneath Moscow, vast enough to act as an entire survival citadel, yet its exact parameters are basically a total mystery. But whether they're highly publicized or fiercely hidden, the pattern is exactly the same. Major global powers are actively engineering their continuity deep underground.
Moving on to level 2, the engineering of survival. Let's get into the nitty-gritty mechanics of how this actually works. Just look at that number, 1,000. Imagine for a second the extreme scale and just the terrifying reality of a nuclear shockwave slamming into the Earth. The sheer kinetic energy of that blast rolling through the planet's crust, it would shatter normal concrete and steel like glass. But these specific structures, they're designed to survive because they actually rest upon 1,000 massive springs. It's like the entire complex is floating. So when the shockwave hits and the Earth violently shifts, all that destructive energy is completely absorbed and dissipated by these immense springs. It keeps the fragile human ecosystem inside perfectly, remarkably intact. But hey, absorbing an artificial earthquake is really only half the battle. Immediately following that shock absorption, the facility has to completely lock down against the literal inferno outside. And that is where this number comes in, 25. As in massive 25-ton blast doors. These aren't just heavy doors, they are an absolute, impenetrable physical barrier. They swing shut to seal the autonomous town off from the surface world entirely. It's the ultimate line drawn in the sand, or, well, in solid rock, I guess. So the truly crucial takeaway here is how these mechanics fire in a precise, totally life-saving sequence. First, as we just talked about, those 25-ton doors slam shut to seal the blast out. But honestly, a closed door doesn't mean a thing if the air you're breathing is toxic, right? That's exactly why Step 2 triggers instantly. Specialized air filters engage to catch the radioactive dust. It's this perfectly timed, beautifully engineered sequence designed to lock down the perimeter and instantly purify the environment, stepping in just in the nick of time to protect the internal air supply for everyone inside. Down to the core, preserving a Type 1 civilization. This is where we completely reframe what these structures are actually for. To truly grasp their ultimate mission, we first really need to define what exactly it is they are trying to protect. Have you heard of a Type 1 civilization? It represents the next monumental, unified step in human evolution. It's essentially defined as a planetary civilization that is capable of harnessing and utilizing absolutely all the energy available on its home planet. It represents humanity reaching its ultimate, optimized form right here on Earth. That is the grand, sweeping trajectory we are currently on, and frankly, it is exactly what's at stake. So let's slow down for just a second, because we really need a massive psychological shift here.
We have to stop seeing these places as just simple panic rooms or, concrete tombs where people go to hide in the dark. That's a huge misunderstanding of their design. They are meticulously engineered autonomous habitats. Think of them as, well, essentially as seeds. If the surface is completely wiped clean, these habitats contain the exact knowledge, the technology, and the human capital required to germinate and start everything all over again.
Because as the source material so clearly outlines, this is the ultimate insurance policy for the human race. The mind-boggling engineering, the 1,000 Springs, Cheyenne Mountain, Metro 2, all of it. The whole shebang exists solely to ensure that our incredibly fragile transition to a Type 1 civilization isn't permanently reset to zero by our own destructive tendencies. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a mechanical guarantee. A guarantee that a catastrophic war doesn't mean the absolute end of the human story, but rather just a really, really severe interruption. Which leaves me with this final, kind of provocative thought for you to ponder as we wrap up our explainer today. We've looked at the intense engineering, the massive blast doors, and the grand philosophical goals behind all of this. But if the absolute worst actually happens, if the surface burns tomorrow, and those heavy steel doors seal shut for real, is this hidden fragment of humanity truly prepared to rebuild it all? Think about what it would actually take to resurrect an entire civilization from the ashes. It's a lot to process. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep questioning what lies beneath our feet.